The sterile hum of alien machinery filled the examination chamber as Ellie Carter sat bound to a cold metallic chair. The air smelled faintly of ozone and disinfectant, thick with unease. To him, it was just another interrogation. He'd been caught trespassing near a mining perimeter he didn't recognize. But to the aliens who surrounded him, he was a specimen. Their silver eyes glimmered with curiosity as they prepared their instruments. Dr. Vereen, tall and commanding, stepped forward with her tendrils clasped behind her back. "Begin the scan," she ordered, her voice carrying that familiar tone of disdain the galaxy often reserved for humans. The machine hummed to life, bathing Ellie in bands of violet light. Its sensors danced over his skin, through his cells, down to the very fabric of his being. He winced as the cold energy probed deeper, recording every strand of DNA and every atomic resonance pattern. On the holographic display, a cascade of genetic data began to form, filling the room with streams of numbers and symbols. The assistants exchanged quiet murmurs in their native clicks and hisses, noting the unexpected complexity of human genetics. Then, abruptly, the machine halted mid-scan and emitted a sharp tone. Everyone turned toward the display, as formed in golden text across the hologram. "ROWAL, Lineage Detected." For a heartbeat, silence ruled the chamber. Then Dr. Vereen frowned. "Run it again," she said sharply. The assistant complied, resetting the scan. The machine pulsed once more, brighter this time, as if straining to confirm what it had found. "Arwell ami divati. Pro repui urens rewired." The chamber's ambient lights dimmed automatically. Doors sealed, the air shifted from curiosity to alarm. Vereen's heartbeat echoed in her ears. Priority 1 clearance was reserved for only the highest levels of the Galactic Dominion's lost monarchy. A civilization that had vanished thousands of centuries ago. Eli blinked, confusion etched across his face. "What's happening? Did your thing break or something?" he asked. The aliens ignored him. The doctor leaned closer to the readout, her eyes scanning the data streams. Every metric, chromosomal pattern, biofrequency, even neural resonance, aligned perfectly with Dominion royal DNA. It was impossible. Humans were primitive newcomers on the galactic stage. There was no conceivable way one of them could carry the bloodline of an empire that predated their species by millions of years. Yet the proof glowed before them, undeniable, shimmering in gold across the dark lab. "You said key point 2, expand into 400 words without heading and conclusion," GT said Dr. Vereen's tendrils twitched with disbelief as she stared at the glowing screen. "This cannot be correct," she muttered, her voice sharp but wavering. "Our scanners must be malfunctioning." Yet when the assistant performed another diagnostic check, the results came back flawless. Every calibration was perfect, every sensor aligned, the data was authentic. Eli Carter, an ordinary human miner from a backwater planet, carried the genetic signature of the most powerful royal dynasty the galaxy had ever known. Vereen ordered a deep-layer genome analysis, diving beyond mere DNA into the molecular memory structures encoded within. The machine's light intensified until it illuminated the entire chamber. And what it revealed shook even the most stoic of the alien researchers. The holographic display projected intricate symbols, ancient sigils that matched the lost language of the Celestial Dominion. The Dominion's scholars had once claimed these sigils were used to encrypt commands into living beings, allowing the rulers to unlock entire star systems with a mere drop of their blood. Yet those records were myth, fragments of forgotten history. Now those same symbols pulsed within Eli's genetic code. His very existence was a key, his body an encrypted to the empire that once spanned galaxies. "Docker." Vereen stepped back, struggling to steady her breathing. "He is not supposed to exist," she whispered. The machine began to access deeper systems, pulling in data from the galactic archives and correlating it against what it found. Each match increased the tension in the room. The Dominion's royal lineage had been wiped out during the Purge of Sovereigns, when the ruling houses destroyed one another in a war for immortality. Their bloodline was thought eradicated. For eons, no trace of it had surfaced, until now. Vereen's assistant, his voice trembling, asked, "Doctor, what if this human is the last descendant?" The words hung heavy in the air, too dangerous to be said aloud. Meanwhile Eli could sense the shift in the room. Their eyes had changed, not with curiosity, but fear. The machines around him emitted faint, rhythmic tones, as if communicating with unseen systems. The display now showed encrypted command codes attempting to unlock ancient databases. Whatever had been dormant in his DNA was waking up, and the aliens knew it. Somewhere beyond the stars, the first echoes of his existence were already being heard. You said key point 3 expand into 400 words without heading and conclusion, ChatGPT said. The hum of the scanner deepened into a low, resonant tone that seemed to vibrate through the very air. Streams of light extended from the holographic console, forming shifting constellations above Eli's restrained form. The alien doctors exchanged uneasy glances as the patterns synchronized into a coherent map, a network of star systems, each marked with the ancient crest of the celestial dominion. The machine's readings were no longer localized, it was transmitting. Frequencies invisible to the naked eye rippled outward, escaping the confines of the lab, racing across the void of space. Dr. Vereen lunged toward the console, trying to terminate the scan, but the system refused her commands. Override denied. The machine intoned. Royal authentication in progress. On distant worlds, machines that had slumbered for millennia flickered back to life. Deep within asteroid belts and forgotten nebulae, massive structures powered on, awakening from eons of dormancy. Sentinels of metal and code stirred, their AI cores reigniting as they recognized the resonance signature of their sovereign. Across dead stations, holograms of the Dominion symbol, an ethereal crown within a burning star, shimmered to life, pulsing in rhythm with Eli's heartbeat. The galaxy, in its silent depths, was beginning to move. Inside the lab, the lights dimmed to a deep crimson hue. Eli's restraints glowed faintly, reacting to an unseen energy rising from within him. His body temperature increased, his eyes reflecting the same golden light that now pulsed through the holograms. He could feel something pulling at him. Memory, a calling, a sense of belonging to something vast and ancient. What's happening to me? He gasped, his voice. The alien stepped back, unwilling to approach him. Doctor. Vereen's voice was barely audible. You're activating the Crown Protocol, she said, horror dawning in her expression. Only the blood of the sovereign can do that. Her assistant scrambled for a communications terminal, sending a desperate encrypted message to the Galactic Council, but it was already too late. Across the stars, Dominion warships, massive constructs the size of continents, lit up one by one, their command system seeking directives from the royal signal. The scanner's voice, now solemn and resonant, filled the chamber. Imperial Network. Reactivation sequence complete. Awaiting orders from His Majesty. The words echoed like a prophecy fulfilled, and in that moment, everyone in the room understood the Dominion had never truly died. It had been waiting. You said key point 4, expand into 400 words without heading and conclusion, ChatGPT said. Panic spread like wildfire across the alien networks as the signal continued to pulse through the galactic grid. Within hours, the broadcast from the medical facility reached deep into the archives of the Galactic Council. Emergency alerts blared in every capital world, and encrypted transmissions filled the communication channels with one chilling message. Royal lineage detected. Crown protocol active. The council's upper chambers erupted into chaos to them. The phrase was not an artifact of myth. It was the beginning of their end. The celestial dominion had ruled through absolute power and control. Its reawakening threatened to erase every government that had risen since its fall. In the med lab, Vereen's communication panel flashed red as the council's high command demanded an explanation. She tried to stabilize her voice as she spoke. The scan is autonomous. The system refuses override. It's responding to human genetic resonance. There was silence on the other end before a single command came through, cold, direct, and final. Terminate the subject immediately. Her hand froze over the controls. She looked at Eli, still restrained, his veins faintly glowing with golden light. The mark of the Dominion's hair unmistakable in the holographic projections swirling around him. Outside the lab, military drones converged on the facility. Orbital cruisers positioned themselves above the planet, ready to fire if containment failed. Yet none of them dared act without confirmation. For killing someone bearing royal genetics carried a risk none could predict. The Dominion's legends spoke of living fail-safes. Genetic triggers that could unleash catastrophic retaliation if the Emperor's blood was spilled unjustly. The fear of waking those protocols kept even the most hardened generals paralyzed with hesitation. Within the chamber, the atmosphere thickened as the machine continued to defy all attempts at disconnection. Its voice reverberated through the walls, reciting fragments of Dominion scripture in a language that hadn't been spoken in 100,000 years. Ali could hear whispers in his mind. Overlapping voices calling him by names he didn't recognize. His pulse synchronized with the scan algorithm, each beat sending another wave of energy into the stars. Dr. Vareen finally stepped back, realizing that killing him wouldn't stop what had already begun. She turned to her assistants, her tone grim. The council thinks they can silence this, she said quietly. But the Dominion doesn't take orders anymore. And far above, in the darkness of space, the old Empire's fleets began to turn toward the living signal of their Emperor reborn. You said key point 5 expand into 400 words without heading and conclusion, ChatGPT said. Eli sat motionless in the chair, his breathing uneven as the glow in his veins began to subside. The alien doctors kept their distance, watching him like something sacred and dangerous. Fragments of images flashed behind his eyes. Vast cities of crystal and light, armies kneeling beneath twin suns. Voices chanting a title that felt disturbingly familiar. Heir of the Starburn throne. Each vision was too vivid to be imagination. They came with emotions that weren't his. Grief, triumph, betrayal. Somewhere deep inside, his DNA was unlocking not just data but memory. Ancestral echoes stored like holograms within his blood. He wasn't just being scanned, he was remembering a life that had been lived countless generations ago. Dr. Vareen cautiously approached, her voice trembling. You're seeing it, aren't you? The memory imprints. Ime looked at her, his eyes faintly luminescent. It's like I've been here before. I know places I've never seen. I feel people calling to me. She studied him silently, realizing that what the machine had awakened wasn't just genetic information. It was a consciousness layered through time. Humanity, she realized, had not evolved independently. They were descendants, refugees of the Dominion itself. Thousands of years ago, when the Empire began to collapse under its own corruption, loyalists had hidden the royal line by exiling it to an uncharted planet, Earth. The story had become myth, buried under centuries of progress. Ellie's voice broke the silence. So humanity were not just newcomers. Vareen nodded slowly. You are the lost children of the Dominion. Your world was meant to protect what remained of its blood. The revelation hit him harder than the restraints ever had. Everything he thought he knew about humanity's place in the universe was a lie. The Council, the alien empires, all their disdain for humans, it stemmed from ignorance of what humans truly were. The irony twisted in his mind. The species mocked as primitive was born from the same line that once ruled the stars. As the memories continued to surface, Ely felt both terrified and empowered. His body hummed with a dormant strength, a regal energy that was no longer foreign but familiar. He wasn't chosen by chance. He had been hidden, preserved, and now awakened precisely when the galaxy had forgotten its true master. The knowledge terrified him, but deep within, a voice older than his own whispered with calm certainty. You were never lost, you were waiting, you said key point 6. Expand into 400 words without heading and conclusion, ChatGPT said. The laboratory trembled as distant explosions echoed from the sky above. The Galactic Council's fleet had arrived in orbit, their ships forming a blockade around the planet. Orders had been given to neutralize the human at all costs before the Dominion's awakening spread any further. Inside, Dr. Vareen and her team worked in frantic silence. The scanner continued pulsing in golden waves, each cycle broadcasting the royal signal farther into the void. Eli stood at the center of it all. The restraints now unlocked by the machine itself. He felt strange calm wash over him, as though he had done this before in another life. They're coming for me. Aren't they? He asked quietly. Vareen nodded. They will destroy this facility. The planet, anything to keep the Dominion from returning. Eli looked at the shimmering holograms orbiting him. Maps, coordinates, and access keys forming an intricate lattice of light. Then we don't let them win, he said, stepping forward. The scanner recognized his voice, responding instantly. Command authority confirmed, initiating Imperial interface. A column of pure energy rose from the floor, enveloping him. Symbols flared around his body, tracing the royal insignia upon his chest. Vareen shielded her eyes as the beam intensified, connecting Eli's consciousness directly to the Dominion's central network. In a fraction of a second, his mind expanded beyond human comprehension. He could see through the eyes of ancient machines, hear the whispers of sleeping fleets awaiting orders, feel the pulse of entire star systems awakening to his presence. Across the galaxy, colossal ships long entombed in silence ignited their engines. Autonomous factories began producing new vessels. Planetary defense grids realigned to their ancient formations. The galaxy trembled as the Dominion's command structure reactivated under his signal. From the Council's warships came frantic transmissions. But it was too late. Their systems were being overridden by Dominion code. Their own weapons turned against them, their fleets bending to a command they could no longer resist. Dr. Vereen fell to her knees, overwhelmed by the spectacle. You are the Emperor, she whispered. Ali's gaze softened, the golden glow in his eyes pulsing steadily. No. He replied, his voice carrying through every active channel in the system. I am humanity and we're taking back what was ours. In that moment, the Dominion was reborn. Every star bowed to the signal of its rightful heir, and the galaxy, once fractured and ruled by fear, remembered what true power felt like.